Okay. Uh, Hello, welcome to my video. My name's Corey Riker, and this is my city. It's called Cedarport, and it's somewhat my ideal city. It's less of my ideal city, but it has a lot of things I find fun and interesting about cities. Like, for example, how like a lot of times cities have like on transportation corridors, like this highway here with the four-leaf clover design for the on ramps and off ramps. Um, they will have like really low industry and low like commercial buildings have be like AC areas or like uh, less it's less desirable land. So a lot of like commercial and like industrial companies that like don't have a lot of money to move around or are less capital intensive um, move here. And a lot of times you can see within cities that they zone specifically for that. That's one thing that is interesting. Before I get into more of the rambling part of this, um, let me answer the questions. I have them pulled up over here. Um, what is the geographic size of my city? It's around 18 square miles. Let me pull up this real quick. You can see here, it's about like six to I forget how much long, but if you're since I made this in QGIS, which I'm gonna be honest, I would not recommend to anyone. I thought it'd be easier just because this is the program you're supposed to use, but the inability to make like curved lines and stuff like that really limits your ability to be really creative here, and you also get really janky lines, and at some point you just get really tired of like certain things about it. But we can check real quick. I can show, you know, wait, wait, new. It's about seven long and four across. I know it's about like 18 square miles in total because you have like some weird bits, and I try to like incorporate like the general weirdness that cities have within their administrative boundary. Um, I always find it unique. You can see like enclaves and stuff of that sort within city boundaries, depending on how they annex and what they annex. I know within my town, we have a lot of those just for like residential development, and that's why I have this here in particular. Is like you can see that this city wanted to fund or had this like single family development right here, and they wanted to get collect the taxes that come with the like the housing taxes and all of that, and they gave up. They took control of this road, so that's like somewhat of a revenue loss. But in contrast to the people they're gaining and the taxes they're gaining is probably better. Let me look at the second question. Oh no, the first question was the population of the city. It's around like 47,000 people. Um, in terms of like actual like urban size and all that, it's a pretty small city. Like again, it's only 18 square miles, and this like urban center or urban core that I made is only about like 1.2 square miles. I think it is 1.2, 1.3. And everything else like for the single family housing, which follows like the lake, um, is only around like 4 square miles. Um, so in relative, it's a pretty small city. And the reason I see is that I think this is more of a city that that you come in to work at this core and to like and from the highway and all that. And I wanted to make a train tracks coming through, but I couldn't. I think the way I designed the um, administrative boundary, it would be better if it came right around next to it. But I also wanted to keep this like line of like part like commerce and industry, just because I think it's interesting. I think and a lot of things you'll see in this video. Let me check the video. Okay, the video's still going. Okay, a lot of things that you'll see within this video, and the reason I made the city this way is just because it's small things that interest me. Um, but yeah, it's around 47,000 people, 48,000 around that. With a vast majority of people being within this like urban cluster right here. that makes up the like most like this like peninsula and like being surrounded by water, so it's more desirable. Um, and then of course the rest being like this low density like single family housing, then this more higher density single family housing which is like townhomes, and then this higher density like apartments and stuff making up the primary rest. I think that's a question later on where like where are the residential neighborhoods? They're all around here. Um, the, there's technically like a second part of the town over here, but it's like somewhat following like a module structure where you have like this part of the city growing in conjunction with all the like low growth over here. But yeah, where are the offices and instructional? Let me get some more. Oh, I don't have anyone. Who cares? Um, in, institutional educational uses are located in your city. Um, they're located. They're kind of scattered everywhere. I mean, some of the I'll explain like some of the more the smaller ones in a second, but the largest ones are first the cemetery. I didn't know what to put the cemetery under, but I didn't want to put it under park because it's more like a city cemetery. It's like an actual like planning. You'd put it as like a semi-public area. But I thought like one of the things that almost every city should have is like a decently large cemetery, and this is about like I think a mile. I think it's a square mile of land. Um, and it's kind of pushed away, and primarily because I think like like a lot of times cemeteries they're usually actually closer to the urban core, but I didn't want like a giant park in the center. I wanted more of this like grid pattern of parks that you see in like cities like Savannah or something like that, because I just find that more interesting and more unique. It allows you to see nature in a more like small scale, I guess. They're like plazas to a degree. um Anyways, next, this is a like small community college over here. It's the only college within the area, and yeah, there's some administrative buildings scattered throughout the city. Have it be like police departments, post office, anything of that sort, planning boards, town halls right over here around the CBD of the city, so the central business district and all that. So um, here are some. I wanted to make sure that I added like some schools here. Um, so these are just like high school, middle school, and probably one of the larger ones over here. So like I was thinking this one and like probably this one here and here. Um, are probably going to be like the elementary schools for the more business districts. I should have probably put more, but I don't really know like what a good number is for a urban area at least. Um, I had a decent number for the like rural and like low density area the for schools. I have one, two, three, four, five, six, and almost all of those are schools, with the exception over here where you're gonna have like this combination of firehouses and police departments. I just want to put one over there since you don't want like to have like the fire department and the police department from the like all the way over here within the industrial district to have to go all the way around the city, even though like relatively, and I didn't check this earlier, it's not that far. It's only like 6 miles. That's not terrible, but it's better to have like closer utilities within that aspect. Okay, what is the next one? What geographic part of the world? North America. Um, there's a lot of areas in North America. It's just like within a temperate environment. You could see the giant lake here. Um, I just looked at lakes in North Carolina and try to model something similar. Um, just because the water forms in specific ways where you have like more windy areas and you can have straighter areas, you have little lakes form and all that, and the way like sand dumps off, and yeah. But yeah, that's generally the part of the world thought to put in, just because that's the part I'm from, and you know, I'm not. I want to learn more about the like design and developments of cities throughout the world, but I just know more about here. So yeah. Uh, oh, I skipped like 2 questions to answer that institutional one. Um, where are the residential neighborhoods in the city? I'm pretty sure I already said this earlier, but you know, you have more like mixed use down in the like central core of the city. Then you have more like apartment shaped buildings, like apartment campus. So that's what I try to make over here, with like the center being like an amphitheater or something of that sort. And then over here you have more apartments closer to the university, so that students can go back and forth, or people working within the business campus, or what is it called? Yeah, I think it's just called business campus, can go there. Then you have the town halls, the higher single family developments. Then you have the lower single family developments scattered through the more like ideal parts of the city, which is like around the coast. And I try to simulate it the best I could with the roads, showing off like, oh, you know, they're trying to maximize land use for profits. You know, that's generally how that works. And then a little bit more denser single family housing for this like second core within the city. Um, yeah. Let me actually start like moving down this list so I can know which one I'm on. Where are the industrial plants and workshops? If you don't, they're all in the south. And the reason I did this was first and foremost right here. I didn't know if I should have put this under institutional or industrial, so I just put it under industrial. This is a dam right here, and it's so that this area can be drinkable like water, and I didn't want any of the pollution. Pollution was one of the things I always consider um, within this, and I'll get to another reason why I was considering it. But I wanted it so that like the water these like industrial factories, industrial like areas use uh, doesn't contaminate up here. And also the water that is used to power this dam, this hydroelectric dam, which powers the city, um, can be funneled when it gets shoots out, can be funneled towards this like um, industrial hub. Because like what some of the things I was considering was, oh, wait, what's that? Was um, like pharmaceutical companies, like even textiles to a degree, like a lot of like bottling companies, a lot of companies that like uses a lot of water. That's what I was aiming for within these like this industrial district. The lower areas are primarily going to be like warehouses and stuff of that sort. Um, but yeah, um, the only other like industrial area that I have that is different, and I purposely made different, is right here. It's the dump. You know, every city needs a dump. That's why there's so much like vacant housing around here. And this is just like I'm pretty sure I have it as a fire department, and this one a police department, because you know you want like those closer to industrial sites because those can catch on fire much easier, and you know like they deal with more dangerous chemicals and dangerous substances. So it's just generally better to have them like protected. Yeah, uh, that's generally the industry around this area: pharmaceuticals, bottling, food, stuff like that. And then you have the dam, um, workshops, and all the workshops and stuff. Like, if you're thinking more of like AC and stuff, like if you're like smaller, like electricians, like more trade goods, all located around this like highway. Because you know like if they need to go again, this one thing is kind of, if they need to go somewhere outside of the city, because you know maybe their trade area is larger than the city, and uh, who knows what's outside the city or over here. I try to like make it so that the city just doesn't end right here and it continues. But we don't know if this is just like a anomaly due to the water here for urban areas, but if they need to get out and go out to like a bigger market, they're able to just take the highway down to the, the next city or wherever they need. Yeah. And I have that because, you need industry within city. It's important as a mean of like actually good paying jobs that wouldn't just be like retail and service based. Jobs like that. Let me check the time. 15 minutes. Oh my God. Um, but yeah, where is that? I'll check after if there's a time limit. But yeah, commercial and retail uses located primarily on this main road. I have some over here as well. They're all low density except for this mall right here. Um, and the reason I did this because when you come off a highway and this like you can see this all over America, you're gonna have a lot of like level commercials, gas station, and all that within this area. And I thought it was probably good to model that. The only other like low residential area, not residential, um, commercial areas that I can think of is the what was I thinking? Over here, right here, which is supposed to be like gift shops, knack gift shops, because right here is supposed to be like an aquatic area. I wanted it to be like aquarium, but also since it's on the water, you could probably have it like be more of a like research facility for it as well. Have a more dual purpose. But over here can just be more like tourists and all that. This is a pretty big city. You can have tourists and like mom and pop shops somewhere on the water. It's like Lake Laurel and or Concord or a lot of like states in North Carolina. Did I answer that? Yeah, I think so. The only other commerce is like within the city here and there. One thing I wanted to model was gas stations in cities. You don't see like gas stations being like um what's it called? You can't really put gas stations in like a multi-level or mixed use building. A lot of times they're just like shops that take up a corner or something. And so I try to model that here, having like a gas station on each like row of this like city. So yeah. Entertainment districts. There's a couple. I didn't really know what to put for entering somewhere. So like right here, that's just a movie theater. That's like it's as simple as um scattered in our like event shops, I guess you can call them. So like um mystery rooms or uh like just like theaters, like classic theaters, or I'm trying to think of the word, opera houses, I guess, like areas where you could just listen to music. Of course, we have the, like aquarium area right here, and right here is just a like I wanted to call it Trade Street, which is just a giant market area where people can like sell goods, but also like just show off um like like Times Square to a degree, where you have people just like walk around in costumes and stuff like that, where it's just an entertainment district to a degree. So yeah, that's why I had right there in particular, and also the amphitheater, which doubles as like uh, a concert area. Um, Typical weather patterns, as I said before, temperate. It's just a temperate environment. So you get rainfall. That's how the water level keeps up, but nothing different than what you'd see in North Carolina or anything. Um, where exactly do you live and work in this city? I thought like me personally, where I would live, if that's what you mean by it, probably somewhere over here. It's a small city, so you don't need to live within the urban area to get to it. Um, it's quite densely packed for a city to be considered. Um, at least this urban area. But you can work within the central business district over here. We have like some offices. It's pretty close to the color of the entertainment, but there are offices scattered here. We have the business campus over here, where you just, you know what business campus is. You can work in retail. It would really depend on what industry. There's plenty of jobs here, and one of the things I think the city does best is um, it keeps the people that it has in its city employed, but also attracts people from surrounding areas to work there as well. So yeah, I think that was all the questions. I will double check real quick just in case. Okay, yeah, I think that was all. The only things I will talk about is probably the pollution and the what was it called? Forgetting off the top of my head. That's why you should have scripts because my brain just bugs out. But in particular, what I want to do is make sure that like any runoff that would come from like a lot of like higher density areas, like over here, would be captured by like local bio plant life and all that. The only exceptions to that, would, of course, is the low density. But I wasn't too worried about that because in comparison to like an urbanized area or even like higher density, there's gonna be a lot less pollution created from runoff. Um, I know this isn't all about the parks. I guess that's entertainment. I I I, I scattered parks everywhere because I think one of the things that cities do sometimes bad is not having a lot of greenery and green areas. You know, if I would have made a specific street or localized area on this, I would have had like separated lanes with trees in between to have a greater canopy, like Savannah, for example. Um, but over here is a dock, some beaches, and the beaches are just areas that actually have sand. Technically all this could be beach. But I just wanted to make sure like the areas that have sand that like you can go to and swim at were noted in particular. So like this little cove, this area here where the current's gonna be pushing, so sand's gonna be coming up here. And of course down here near the dam. But here's like a boat ramp, a little like park here, and I have a little boardwalk tutory. Oh, less boardwalk, but like an area where like there'd be like just a park. It's just a park that goes along the coast. I don't know best way to describe that. And here's the parks there. Yeah. This is a park that I put right here because I feel like if you're working like within the business district and you want to like just escape it for a little bit or like go to lunch with night, you can just sit at instead of having to go to the cemetery, you can go here and or even just to conduct business there. Could be interesting. Yeah. Well, that's my city of Cedarpoint. I think I mentioned everything. If you have any questions, let me know. I had a lot of fun doing this, especially the outer parts. Once you got into the city, I kind of just did a grid, which is kind of unoriginal, but a lot of cities are built like that. It's one of the more effective ways to design a city. Um, Yeah, I had a lot of fun, especially creating the lake and creating the highway, creating the industrial, and it was a really fun project. Yeah. Hope you have a great day, and bye bye.